Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to Morning Verses with Mike. I hope your day's started off absolutely fantastic so far. Thank you for hopping in here and joining me. Couple quick reminders. I do this every weekday morning at 6:15 a.m. and I would love to have you join me live. If you're joining live, please do me a favor and throw some thumbs up, throw some hearts on there. And one way that we can help to spread the word of God, share some positivity, share our faith, impact other people for good, is just share the video, because sometimes it leads to a conversation with other people. Also, if you have a verse that is impacting you right now in your life, because I do believe that different verses, different places in the Bible speak to us differently at different times in our lives. That's saying different a whole lot as I get started, and I do that the same each morning. See the irony in that? Anyway, I do believe that it speaks to you differently at different times. So if you have a verse that's impacting you, share that in the sidebar. And I'd love to continue the conversation with you after the video. So this morning, I'm going to be sharing Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8. One of the things that I wanted to do a few things this morning. One is I did tag a whole bunch of people. So I hadn't done that in a little while. And the method to the madness, these are people that are generally okay, catching a tag on a video and so forth, or had said previously, hey, tag me if you're doing these in the morning and so forth. But sometimes I know it gets to be a wear out. So I don't have a lot of method to the madness. So if I missed you this morning, it wasn't intentional. If I tagged you and you don't want to be, shoot me a message later. That's fine. I'm not into doing that every single day, but I wanted to share the message today, and I wanted to remind some people, hey man, still here at 6:15 a.m. Come join me every weekday. So I see a whole bunch of people going by here. Marco, good morning. Been a little bit. Clinton, Jason, John, Jeff, Matt, Terrell, Elias. Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for getting up and joining me this morning. And for anybody else who's there live with me right now, thank you. I do stream this live from my Morning Verses with Mike page on Facebook, as well as the YouTube channel. And then certainly my friends that I invited and people that I'm closer to that I sent some tags out this morning. So talking about Ephesians 2:8. But one of the things, before I get into that, there were several, and sometimes I think we see what we are attracting into our lives. And I saw a whole bunch. I acknowledged a prayer request that I had yesterday, and I just wanted to talk for a minute about prayer. That was my theme yesterday. And when we're talking about prayer, I saw a whole bunch going through different people's feeds and having conversations yesterday. And I would encourage you, one of the things that I see that happens, especially on social media, people will put out a need or a want, and they say, hey, this person could really use your prayers. And what'll happen is we'll jump in there and we'll say, yeah, absolutely, I'm praying for them, or we'll click a like and we'll say that we're doing that, because often what happens, that surrounds them with love, but it makes us feel good about ourselves in the moment, right? So here's what I would ask you, and I'd encourage you. If you see those prayer requests go through, stop right then and say a prayer. Because sometimes if we don't, and I know I've done this in the past, where I would say, yes, I will pray for them, and then I lose the thought, and we forget to until later. And when they need you is right now. So just stop in the moment, step outside or step into another room and say the prayer in the moment. That's a practice that I started, I started practicing myself. So when I'm asking and I'm encouraging you, I think that's something that for me has brought some more light into my life. It's not just the scrolling by and we click on it and we say, yeah, I'll include them in my prayer. Stop right then, man. That's when they need it. That's when they need to talk to you. Because sometimes if you stop right then and you're saying a prayer for that person, or acknowledging their prayer request truly in your life and acknowledging that light, sometimes it will tell you, God will say, hey, listen, they need a phone call right now, or they need to be connected with this other person right now, or you'll hear different things if you're on it just like that in the moment. So I know that's a side note, but it's just one of those things that was speaking to me this morning, and that was the theme yesterday. It was, talking about prayer and how to pray and and such biblically. So I thought I'd share that this morning. So getting into Ephesians, one of those 2 cents things. So getting into Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8. First off, Ephesians it's a big picture view, right? It was written by the Apostle Paul, and it's written to be that big picture view. And the theme of the verse this morning is grace in God. It's kind of a classic verse. The theme of Ephesians also, it reminds us that there is direct teaching, especially to husbands in this. Now, I am reading from the New Living Translation of Every Man's Bible. So it is male skewed in many areas. It's a study Bible. And so it's, what's the point of Ephesians? It says your potential is huge. You got to reach for it. So 2, verse 8 says, God saved you by his grace when you believed, and you can't take credit for this. It is a gift from God. Grace is the source of salvation, and salvation works in tandem with grace. And by our faith, we are saved in God, right? We should never choose, and this is just how this is talking to me right now. We shouldn't choose to believe that, grace and salvation and faith are apart from God or operating alone in our lives, if that makes sense. There isn't human action that's strong enough to provide like a self-sufficient salvation, right? It's not you. So when it's saying you're saved by the grace of God and you can't take credit for this, it's a gift from God. It's not something that is strong enough for just that human potential, right? It only comes from God. I don't say a lot of ums, but as I'm thinking this morning, in short, don't get wrapped up in your own pride and try and thank yourself for the deeds that, in fact, like you're thanking yourself for the deeds and saying, hey, I made it, or I was saved, and because I'm saved, I'm going to make it. That's God's work. That's God working through you. You may be listening at the moment. You may be taking action on those things that were planted there, but do acknowledge that they came into your life from a higher power, right? You can have a million thoughts in a day. You can have a million things that speak to you, that come into your life in different areas on social media, and you go, oh man, yeah, that's a great idea, and there's all these different things coming at you. But if you never move, if you never act, right? So yes, you've got to take, you get to take some credit if you're acknowledging that and taking action on it. But this verse is a reminder that, that ultimately that's God's work. And when you can accept that, and that's the real source of salvation and grace, that is when truly you could be saved. So that's the message for this morning. I'm going to look over here real quick. Clinton says, great point about praying for people. If you have the time to acknowledge it, have the time to say a quick prayer. I think that's huge. And that was from a moment ago, so I saw it pop up there, Clinton. So, and I think that's true. We have so much time that is often, wasted. So, I would encourage you those 2 things. One, don't get wrapped up in yourself and your own pride today, right? Acknowledge that God is at work in your life. God is leading you down the path. That's number 1. That's the message out of today's verse of Ephesians 2:8. And secondly, when you see those things, you see somebody in need, you see somebody that needs a prayer request, just take a moment out right then. It's not going to hurt anybody. Bow your head right then in the moment. Do it all the time. So thanks for getting up and joining me this morning. I hope your day has started off absolutely fantastic. Please do me a favor. Like I said, if there's, if there's something I can ever do for you, just reach out. Shoot me a DM. Let's have a conversation. Share a verse in the sidebar. Share a verse in the comments that's impactful to you. And until we speak next, see you tomorrow morning, 6:15. Hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. We'll talk to you soon, everybody.